to like really practically work to be in closer touch with the divine, the immanent divine, the divine that's inside of all of us. So in that, the practices that stood out from the article are surrender and aspiration, and those to me aren't words. Those are deep forms of practice that take trying 1,000 times a day if needed. It's one of those things. It does start with for me, it starts with a mental or a heart-centered sensing, but practicing surrender and aspiration are two practices that help me get at it.
Again, I think for me, experience is a really big word. Sincerity is a really big word for me in this yoga, and it's helped me live it. Practicing this yoga with sincerity has helped me have these experiences. Like I've had some amazing experiences of like feeling oneness, feeling bliss, feeling that, you know, it's like I feel oneness with people that I'm around, and I feel like that is being the living laboratory of this consciousness.
Very practically, it is the attempt, I say attempt because it's still not very successful, to be always concentrated on, always on the divine, on the idea, also the idea of the divine, without feeling nothing. And this is something not easy to do because you are continuously bombarded from the outside, from the, you feel it also, these vibrations that come from the outside and all these suggestions, especially now in our times with all this COVID thing. And so there are also a lot of negative suggestion, and to sheath us from this and to keep this inner contact with the divine and have always the thought on the divine. That is what I'm trying to do.
Well, you know, when you think of a laboratory, you think of the scientific method, right? You think of controlled experiments, you think of trial and error. So you start with an idea, you have a hypothesis, and you test it out. And if it doesn't work, you try it again and again. And eventually you may have to recalibrate and maybe change your methodology a little bit. So when you're a living laboratory of the life divine, it's just like that. If at first you don't succeed, you try again and again and again, day after day, year after year. So it's an experiment that you conduct on yourself. You're the guinea pig, you're the lab rat. And what you're doing is you're working on the different elements of your nature, mental, vital, physical, trying to open them to this divine force. And what you find out though is, you know, it's like an endless science experiment. There's always more work to do, more refinement that's needed. And the finish line keeps receding.
That's a great approach, Lynda. And I think it could work for even for if someone comes from a skeptical background, they can perform those experiments on their own and see if it works or not. I try to keep an open mind for this kind of, you know, insights to come from all different angles, science, metaphysics, spirituality. And at my personal level, I think talking to people from many different backgrounds and views and opinions, and being open to that has kind of like I found it personally beneficial for me. That's why I
feel that the idea of the integral, and how do we get to know that? I mean, it's a paradoxical, to the mind, it's a paradoxical state. And so, like I'm saying, it's not something the mind can't segment things off and say, well, this is the integral. We just draw arrows between these boxes. You know, it's more like, how can we bring these into resonance with each other, and how can they be porous? Like, we sometimes need to have a more smaller canvas, like let's say a subject like music. Sometimes we need to go in and say, well, this is our canvas. This is the laboratory right now, you know. But I think that the yoga is asking things to be porous and things to resonate and interact with each other, and sort of sometimes grind up against each other, sometimes question how we are knowing. And so I guess I would say that yes, different parts of our lives, like let's say studying philosophy versus studying and doing music, they're really different ways of knowing. And I think that's where I would say yes, we need to cultivate multiple ways of knowing, and put them on not in a hierarchy, but put them in a way in which they can influence each other, you know.